This short video will cover the assignment submission of the URL. So we'll just go through that a couple of different times and look at what's expected for turning in that URL each time. You'll notice on each assignment you'll find a spot that says URL submission, submit the URL to each assignment here. You should also find something near the bottom that says submit it here and test it and make sure that it works, because this is actually how I'm going to navigate to each one of your submissions so that I can do grading. So I'm using a dummy account, so I've got my CGT 356 web number letter. That's your login. So my dummy account is 3A. So I've got CGT 356 web 3A there, and I'm putting in my testing password. So when I come here, you'll see that I logged in as CGT 356, so I'm in that class. I can choose the assignment that I want to submit. So I've got it pre-populated with I'm sure more than we're actually going to have. But so let's say that I want to do assignment 2 actually. If I've got this folder, so you can see that I've got my drive mapped, ecniisdev.ecn.purdue.edu in my folder and the assign02 folder that I've created. If I click out here, you can see that's the drive letter that I mapped, but that's where the directory's at. What we need is a URL like this, so that we can navigate to it from anywhere. So I've given you the beginning. It's https://cgtweb2.tech.purdue.edu/courses/cgt356, and then this is your folder. Your folder should be listed right here, and you'll want to leave that. And then you would put, like if you were submitting assign02, you would put assign02 slash, let's look at that folder again, assign02 slash, and it's index.php is what we want to land on. And you'd put index.php like that, and you'd submit that URL. Once you submit that URL, it'll say you've successfully submitted it. It'll show up down here at the bottom, and it will have a link that you can click on to test. Now this is not going to work because I just showed you. I don't have, ECN did not set this folder up for me, so I do not have that folder. This is just a dummy account I have to log in here as a student so that I could make this video. So what I am going to do is I'm going to modify this URL to actually point to this one. So I don't want to make this confusing at all. For you, you should leave that folder name. That should be your folder name. So if you look at your mapped drive, this right here should match your folder name that shows up there, the folder name that you mapped. So for me, just for purposes of showing you a working link, I will put in this because I know in my folder that ECN did make for me, I've got an assign02 and I've got an index.php. Now when I submit that, this is going to change. So you'll see it says it updated the submission. So I've still got the assignment 2 there. And now when I click on this, my lab 2 actually loads there. And so I know the beginning of lab 2 actually looks a lot like the login for this. Surprise, surprise, right? So again, you come back and so you've got assignment 1 to submit. So you would put in assignment 1 slash and then the name of your file. So generally what we do is an index.html most of the time. Some of you have chosen to call it something different. And the important thing that for you to realize is that you have to put this file name for this link to work. Now, if it is index.php or index.html, you may be able to leave it off and it'll work. But if it is anything else, if it's a misspelled character, you have to have the name of the file for it to load. Once you submit this, once you submit it down here, if you click on it and it does not load, you need to fix it. Don't turn this in. I'm going to give you a 0, okay? You need to fix the URL and you need to understand how the URL works. So it's CGT Web 2 all the way through courses, the course number, your folder that ECN created for you, the folder that you created for the assignment, followed by the name of the file, whatever that file name happens to be, so that when you submit it, it actually goes to the location, so that when I click on it out of this app, it actually loads. If I click on it out of this app and it doesn't load, then I've got to go and map my network drive. I've got to go find your folder, navigate down into whichever assignment it is I'm looking at, and then try to figure out what file name you've named it that doesn't work. So this is a sticking point for me. When you submit it, I've given you a way to test and make sure that it works. You need to test and make sure that it works. So obviously this one does not work. ECN did not give me that folder. That folder doesn't exist. Again, this is a dummy account for me to show you how to do this. I made this one work down here. And again, this works for all the classes. So in this case, I've logged in as a dummy account for 456. Again, I can choose the item that I want to submit something for. Again, I can place in there. So this should be the location of my folder that ECN created for me, or I'm speaking as you. This should be your folder that ECN created for you. And then you put in your folder, followed by the file name that needs to load. Now in the case of a research assignment, you need to put, I created a folder called RA1, and then in there is my document ra1.docx or whatever it happens to be. Point to the file name. If you do this, if you leave it like that and submit it, it is going to fail. It is because it's not pointing to a file name. The file that is in your folder will not automatically load. It will not show up in the browser. So you submit that link down here. You test it, make sure that it works. If it doesn't work, fix it and submit it again so that it does work. So that gives you a couple of examples. Again, don't be confused by my dummy account here. Yours, when you log in, yours should say your folder name there that ECN created for you. And then you list your subfolders and file names there. When you do that, you cannot have spaces or special characters. Do not put spaces or special characters in your folder names or file names. You don't do that in web development. In web development, if it's 2 or 3 words, you run those words together and use camel casing, or you can use underscores. Underscores are allowed, but not used terribly often. But you cannot use special characters, and you cannot use spaces. So you've got to remove those. So hopefully that gives you a good understanding of how to use this app to turn in each one of your assignments. Just as you finish an assignment, just choose that one, and then make sure that it's pointing to that particular folder and the actual file that needs to load, and then make sure that you test it when you're done. So hopefully that gives you a good understanding.